Yeah, my pleasure. Yes. Sign up. Everybody. You may have already seen it. Thank you.
Big smile. I'm
You're like very close to we have gotten everything like that would be exciting because I expected the month back. I didn't have to tonight. Before we see the call, I like to get it's fun. Yes. No, mine's body. This is. Yeah.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. We are going to go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Okay, I'm not sick this time. And I hope you're not either. Happy Valentine's Day, and we appreciate you, right? All this, all right, so let's start with Alan.
Here.
Banford. Bergel. Boyd.
Here.
Brock. Buzon.
Here.
Paramanica.
Here.
Chang. Colley. Colley. Council.
Here.
Cuomo.
Here.
Doms.
Here.
Davis. Dutt.
Here.
Dyer. Elias. Ellison. Green.
Here.
Griffin.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Hampton.
Here.
Hart.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here is your proxy.
Jansen.
Here.
Yara Pasmino.
Here.
Kazim.
Here.
Han.
Here.
Lee.
Yeah.
Maggiano.
Here.
Matthews. Mendes. Moon.
Here.
Morales.
Here.
Afoe.
Here.
Peralta.
Here.
Perry. Riker.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Ruffin. Song.
Here.
Shepherd.
Here.
Shellnut.
Here.
Shin. Siciliano.
Here.
Swift.
Here.
Talbot. Viswanath. Webb. Wentz.
Here.
Yang. Yarbrough.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So minutes were approved electronically, so we can go ahead and hand the floor over to our president provost for the reports.
That's fast today.
Yeah, okay, we're getting it done. We're gonna get efficient today.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. As always, wonderful to be here. The spring semester has started off very well. We are year on year from last spring, we're up about 11%. So again, that's the good news, but you know the bad news already, which is we still need more undergraduate students. So I know I'm getting repetitive on that, but at the same time, we are making progress. Our retention is good right now. We need to do a lot more, but there are positive signs. And so we are on our way on that. I know I've been hearing from John on on the work that all of you are doing for trying to have in-person classes, trying to have other events across campus to kind of create that energy. And I've been to some of these events. There was what was it? It was like a student art event in the humanities. There were some awards and stuff. Awesome work happening in that area. I went to There was a high school research symposium thing. I was middle and high schoolers, I forget the exact name. But again, really cool event, and I was looking at some of those projects that they were working on, really fantastic stuff. Coming to this building, a lot of things happening in this building all the time. And then yesterday we had, which I was really, really impressed with. I saw a few of the presentations. This was for a QEP on career readiness and experiential learning. And we had some really fantastic presentations, which really connected kind of how everything we teach, it was from all different areas. It wasn't like, professional schools or whatever. It was all different areas about how it connects to how what we do connects to the future, their purpose, right? What they're trying to achieve. And that also fits in beautifully with what we try to do from the system office, on the momentum approach. For those of you, if you're new, you're not, I'm sure all of you have heard of the momentum, but if you haven't, it's got these three main principles: purpose, pathways, and mindset, which is students need to have a purpose from day one. It doesn't mean they need to know what job I want. It just means they need to have a broad area, right? So I like the health area, for example, so that they can start thinking, so that we can sign up people right from day one to that purpose. And that purpose may change. It's okay for all of us. We do it through our careers. What our purpose is could change, but it's good to have something instead of nothing. And hey, I'll find that great purpose someday, right? It's good to pick something and then try it out and then move on. And then pathways. And again, a lot of work that all of you have been doing in this area, which is how do we reduce prerequisite chains? How do we make sure that students can quickly progress? If students switch majors, I know many of you use the metrics dashboard. If students switch majors, how can we make it easy for them so that they don't waste, if they change their purpose, it doesn't mean life should be now really hard and it becomes now they can't switch, right? So how do we make it easy that way as well? And then to me, the biggest one is mindset, which is, and it's, you know about growth mindsets, but it's all kinds of mindsets. It's essentially how do we take life? How do we think about where we are? And how do we have the confidence that we can keep moving up? And when I see these events, these kind of small ways of demonstrating excellence, it is a way of showing people, well, this is important. This is what makes us move forward, encouraging them to do things, whether in the sciences or other areas. And all of that, like I said, I've been happy to see. Outside of academics too, we are, basketball season has been on for a while. We're doing well. It's again, as I keep saying, it's D1 athletics. It's not easy, but in life we can't always. If you're winning every time, then we're not playing the right game, right? We are playing the right game if you're losing at times. That is a necessary condition to tell yourself that I'm doing well. Because if you're playing every game, winning every game, that's not the right level. And I think that's where we are. We're doing very well in the D2 space. We go to D1, and there are some struggles. I should say that our women's basketball team is doing really, really well. And so we'll see how it goes. But the men's basketball team is also trying. It's tough. And, our resources are also limited. I've looked at some budgets across institutions. I'll tell you, you may think we're going D1 and spending all this money in athletics, but that's not the case. Our budgets are the competitors are, they have big budgets, everything else going on in this space. It's a lot going on in this space. But it is hard to recruit our good players and you can keep them here instead of them going someplace else. But we're trying and we're playing the right game. So like I said, we are, we'll lose some and we'll win some, but we're playing the right game. I'll also add that, as I've been saying, it's not just D1 athletics. It means how we elevate ourselves in all our spaces, right from enrollment to great experiences to helping them graduate and have great careers. It's that entire chain which we need to be D1, and we are on our way on that. So we're providing great experiences in in the classroom, outside the classroom, both academic and extracurricular. We did have, in case you didn't know, the highlight this year was for our cheer team, which went to the nationals, and they competed in 4 championships. And guess how many they won? 4. Could we have cheer for the cheer team? They are, they are truly phenomenal. And some of, sometimes I used to think like, okay, they're playing in some smaller league and they're winning there. No, they are the absolute best one in the country. There is a separate league, which is kind of more into the artistic dancing and so on. But if you look at pure athleticism, there is no one better. Okay. And our coach, Nicole, she does a phenomenal job. No one better. And if you, if you look at the nationals on YouTube, you'll see that, they do some phenomenal stuff, and work very, very, very hard. I know some of you, sometimes I see some of you in the fitness center, and you may have seen our cheer athletes work out. I mean, they are like, they're top of the line athletes, and it's just amazing how hard they work, and they're also doing well academically, by the way. So I just wanted to make a special note of our cheer team here. So good things happening there. We also got some good rankings overall in US News and World Report. We are number 2 in 3 online master's programs. One is right here in the online MBA, number 2 in the state. One is nursing, again, number 2 in the state, the master's in nursing, and one is in applied computer science, again, number 2 in the state. So in different areas, our online programs are doing very well. I think I've already mentioned our on social mobility stuff, which is essentially more like economic mobility and, people coming in with Pell Grants and stuff and doing very well. We're number 3rd in the state. So lots of good things happening. At the same time, I'll keep coming back to, and I'm sure by now you're tired of hearing me talk about this, but I will keep talking about this because I think it's really critical, which is the undergrad, getting them, enrolling them, helping them graduate at better rates than we currently do. I have spent my career in top research institutions. So it's not like I don't value research. It's not like I don't value graduate education. I really do. But I also know that every single institution that excels on the graduate side is very, very strong on the undergraduate side. You'd be hard pressed to find a single institution which does not have a great undergraduate program and then really excels on the graduate side, right? So I know that that's the core, and we have to keep building that core. It's not just for like, kind of that brand. It's also for our overall long-term sustainability, right? These are the people who create the culture while they're here. These are the people who go out and say good things about us because they have memories about this place. They have positive memories, and memories too. I was in another event today, and I was talking about how memories need 2 things. Memories need, number 1, some spatial component. Right? If you remember something, usually remember it along with this is where I was. And the second thing is a strong affective emotional tag, right? And of course, for good memories, a positive tag, right? So how do we create those spaces, like spaces for them? And how do we then create those positive experiences so that then they leave? And that can happen only in person, right? I mean, it can happen online too, but spatially, you can provide spaces in person. You can have more of those closer interactions. And we need that. Again, it doesn't mean everyone, like I've said this earlier, but I'll repeat. We don't want to give up on our online students. They are a critical part of our portfolio, and Georgia loses online students overall. So we don't want to lose online students. We don't want to lose graduate students, which we're serving, like a college of education is serving, teachers across the state and education across the state. And we don't want to lose that. So we don't want to lose all the other things. We just want to make sure we have a big enough core, a strong core, so that these people can create the energy that we need on campus, and these people later on go and and come back and support us different ways. I was just in the foundation meeting the other day, and I asked them to raise hands, and most people were people who spent time on campus. Well, I think everyone was people who had those memories from campus, and I think about half of them were connected to Greek life in some way, right? Again, that's again, not everyone has to be Greek life, but that's one of the ways in which we connect people. So there has to be academics, and there has to be something else, which then binds them here. And so we have been working on, we talked about academics, but apart from that, I talked about this, in my last meeting on the kind of things which we are doing to maintain a good experience in the non-academic areas too, like housing. And we have working on the HVAC so that it's kind of done by this for the next cohort in the fall. We've opened up East Commons for dinner. Honestly, we didn't need to, in the sense that West Commons is big enough to accommodate everyone, but it wasn't convenient. We're losing out students, and we're just not creating good experience for them. So how do we keep East Commons open? We've made, if you haven't been to the UCC, with the flooring and everything, that Chick-fil-A area looks really nice. Go to the top floor, you'll see some virtual reality, you'll see this gaming things and so on. So we haven't kind of formally launched it, but it's there, and students have started trickling in. And we need those spaces. We've been talking about districting, having some districts and so on, where students this is where you study, this is where you eat, this is where you have fun and so on, creating that sense of a place and which can create those memories, right? So we're building on those, and we're really getting a good response on our dining and other areas. So it's positive on that. Our admissions people are working very, very hard. We had a good, our showcases have gone really well, where we're getting many more people than we usually do. And we're trying to present everything we have to offer, whether it's D1 athletics or our labs or all the other experiences that we have here. Because we do want, one thing I've been telling the admissions folks is that it's not just about casting a wide net and whoever comes, because then many of them, this won't be the right fit and they'll leave. So we want the right students who will really appreciate what we have to offer here and hopefully stay here. And even if we are not their school of first choice, but we want them to come, and then they should be like, okay, I love this and I love that, and I don't want to leave, right? That's the goal. And we are, so we are working towards that. Our admission folks have been doing a great job, but a lot of it, again, as I've been telling you before, this is, you are the ones who interact with students the most. Like faculty are the ones, staff members see them in between, but you're the ones who interact with the students the most. And whatever you can do to kind of, keep it's one student at a time, whatever you can do with everyone you interact with, make them feel that this is their place, make them feel connected, because the easiest thing to have more students on campus is to retain the ones we have, right? That's the easiest way to grab every single student and make them love this place so much so that they don't leave. We'll still keep looking for getting new ones, but the headwinds are against us, right? There's a demographic cliff which is arriving a bit late in Georgia, but it's like in the next cycle, it will touch us with fewer high school students and so on. But so those headwinds are for new students. There are no headwinds for the students who are here because they have chosen to be here. It's more like what we do here, we can retain them and help them graduate. That's why I keep coming back to the experiences, to our interaction with those individual students. And to that end, I have received that told me there was a question on, what are we doing for our populations? There were some specific populations mentioned because there is anxiety and so on. And my answer is that So first, yes, we know, we see them every day. There are lots of students who, due to whatever reason, sometimes it could be the political situation, sometimes it could be the financial situation, sometimes it could be the academic situation. Our students are feeling, have been feeling, some anxiety, distress, and so on. And we do have very good resources here. We have on whether it's mental health or counseling or behavioral therapy and so on. But it's not just that, because for many of them, it could be a financial aid counselor that can solve their issues. It could be a professor. It could be an advisor. It could be someone else. It doesn't necessarily only mental health. But we know that each individual is different, is unique, lots of things happening. And we don't know what that intersection of different things is, which is causing that distress. But that's how we are set up to provide those best services. And, so we stay in touch with our teams. If, I'm sure all of you know about UWG Cares. That care team is phenomenal and knows kind of how to move people to the right places. But every individual is unique. At the end of the day, every individual is unique. And honestly, you're the front line for these things. You see them in classes, you see them change behaviors or behave, you're not the same person like you were in that first week. Talk to them, have them, refer them to the care team, and just be on the lookout for those signs. Like, again, we don't, and this is, of course, this is not just about retention. This is much more than that. This is just caring about people, just making sure people feel good, they feel safe. And so please keep helping us on that. And we are set up, but again, it'll be very, trust me, they really focus on every individual here that the kind of cases we get. It's usually a complex mix of different things happening, and one triggers something else. That's how it goes. And honestly, that's how it goes for all of us, right? Including us here in staff positions or faculty positions. We are all complex, but I'm just assuring you that we do have good systems in place to support each and every one. So maybe I'll just pause here, and I'm just trying to think if there was something else. I know we had last time you talked about whether we should do surveys with students, and we have been working on that again, trying to see, because of students, one thing we're struggling with is that students get so much information that eventually they block themselves and they don't pay attention. So we're having conversations on apps and so on, and how do we leverage those things. Attention is the biggest challenge nowadays, right? Especially with young people, but for all of us, attention is the biggest challenge. And so much of we just had another conversation in our leadership meeting, and a lot of it was, we have these, for example, student jobs, but many students don't know, and they then just go out. And I was like, why? And then you realize there's a complex set of reasons for why that happens. So all this to say that, we're listening to you, and we want to get more information directly from students, but we also try to look for how can we strike that balance and kind of, not, and just make sure students get the information that's really critical. So we're working on that. All right, let me stop here and see if there are any questions or any general comments. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. I want to ask you a question, but before I ask you a question, I want to give a context. This is about the news items and federal funding, including indirect costs at NIH, and how proposals are being reviewed at NSF. There was a big article in the New York Times.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to vent, although I feel like doing it. It's not productive. But it turns out that one can safely say that while other institutions in Georgia, especially the urban institutions, are much more impacted than West Georgia is, for many of them it is existential. We are somewhat shielded from that. But nonetheless, any drop in NSF funding, for example, is going to hurt our mission of preparing the next generation of professionals in all disciplines, especially in the natural sciences. Now, there was a program officer at NSF who spoke to New York Times without identification and said that of the two criteria for evaluation at NSF, one is broader impact, and they were looking for certain keywords in the broader impact area. And interestingly, one of the words is women, and I'll not say anything further. Now, given this context and the potential impact on us, here is my respectful question for the administration. Given that our current chancellor is an individual who was in the first Trump administration cabinet, is there a possibility that we can draft a tasteful message and request you to convey it to the chancellor with a request that this is so important for us, all the USG institutions, including West Georgia, that can we, I don't know how to word it, can we engage the Trump administration in a useful conversation so that the impact on us is minimized?
Yeah,
Thank
no, thank you. And for context, for adding to the context, the NIH funding that was discussed, which is where the big cut has been, so you get from NIH, you get indirect costs, usually about 50% or so. If you get $100 from them, about $50 you get as NIH as indirect support for operations. And that's been, it varies a bit, but it's in that range. And that's been cut down to 15%, 1.5, which for us at the University of West Georgia is not, it could be meaningful, but it's not that meaningful as it is for many of our R1 institutions. Stanford, for example, I think they're losing $164 million. And I mean, you can imagine if you have like about $500 million in research dollars from NIH, and now you have like a third less. So that's the math, right? So that's what's impacting. I know that so one thing I would say is that I'm sure, given kind of across, especially the Stanfords and the Johns Hopkins and so on, to truly dependent, I don't think it's like the federal government would be unaware of the impact. I will, as I always do, I do update the chancellor on things here. I don't think I need a specific official, note. I think, I've noted it, and I will make sure it's conveyed. Of course, we don't speak on behalf of the, of the system. The chancellor does, and he can decide. I'm sure there are others who are telling him about kind of the impact on their budgets. I'm not aware. I haven't had conversations with him on this, but I'll definitely be happy to convey that is a concern from here too. I will tell you that we did have one of our federal pauses did influence one individual where we had a grant and there was a pause and that was influenced, but otherwise it's been fairly minimal for us. But of course, as we're trying to grow and people like you and others are looking for grants, that becomes a consideration. So I hear you, I understand that thing, and I will be sure to convey to the chancellor that this was one of the things that was.
Thank you very much.
Other things. Comments, questions, suggestions? It's a quiet group today, Dylan. What's going on? Is it like people just had lunch or? Yeah. Well, happy Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Thank you, Shwani. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Wore the red tie, and so for those of you in red, kudos, on point. I'm going to start by really pointing out some of the items on the agenda that caught my eye and really indicative of the work of the faculty and making sure we have currency and relevance and all of our degree programs continue to serve students and prepare them for their careers. I'm inspired by the updates in the philosophy, the physics program, especially in battery. I know recent news, help me out. Frere, thank you. Frere has changed its business strategy in Georgia, but nonetheless, green energy and battery technology, to quote the governor, wanted Georgia to be central in that effort and be really a huge contributor to clean energy and battery technology in the state. So we're still pushing on that. I'm inspired by the updates that faculty in physics and other areas are doing in that. At the graduate level, GPC, we've got the Masters of Professional Accounting and Adding Analytics, and in particular in that cyber degree, that MS in Cyber and Information Management, increasing flexibility, changing some of the core versus the electives in that. And so I just point those out. I mean, you've got the agenda, obviously, we'll be getting into that in a moment, but that's just indicative of our faculty's work in making sure that all of our curricula are up to date and ever changing. So when we look at that 200-page agenda for today, it's not atypical that UPC and GPC are very active, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness that people are putting into that and the deep dive that they're doing to make sure that their programs are ever evolving. You probably have heard me say that, you know, if I were to teach 1995 computing, you know, nobody's doing Visual Basic at the level that they were 30 years ago. And so in all of our academic disciplines, we need to keep on the forefront, and you are doing a great job of that. I want to give a couple of updates based on the conversations that we had in January and also late last year. The president mentioned the student retention survey. We've got a subcommittee in the Faculty Senate, and strategic enrollment management and advising have done some work in this space historically. The response rate, as you might imagine, from someone who's not returning to UWG is pretty low. So how can we continually engage students to say, what is meaningful to you? What is working well? What is not working well? What do we need to change to meet your needs? Looking at possibly doing low friction, embedding that into D2L, and appreciate some of the feedback that you and the Faculty Senate have provided on, you know, how do we incorporate it into the classes and really get rich information so we can take action that's going to move the needle and retain students here. But to kind of leverage off of Ashwani's comments just a moment ago, fantastic on-campus experiences. Just yesterday, we had a phenomenal QEP kickoff. And my comment then was, we're not really kicking this off. We've been working on this, you know, for a year and a half plus, but that was a great official launch. And our QEP fellow and champions and the great work that you're doing individually with high impact practices and engaging students for that career readiness is really, I'd say, David, an envy of many institutions across the USG. And we're hearing that from the system office, and we're being invited to share some of the work that we're doing through the Momentum. It's not really Momentum Year anymore, right? It's just Momentum Lifestyle. Let's call it that, right? We need a Netflix special to talk about our Momentum Lifestyle. But I love that we're not only helping our students have a change mindset where, yes, they can do these things, but we also apply that in our own faculty and staff lives here. So the QEP kickoff was fantastic. Last Friday, we had a great event for middle and high school students. The West Georgia Regional Science and Engineering Fair was hosted in the biology building. Had about 100 students participating in that and their families. And at an event just earlier this week, the Black History and Business event that Richards College of Business put on, phenomenal event there, and actually had a parent of one of the science fair students come up to me and say, you know, hey, that was a great event. Love to connect with you. This was someone from Southwire. And so speaking of QEP, that's just going to create an opportunity for our students. You know, this person saw what we're investing in those high school and middle school students, and then wants to engage and create internship or career opportunities for our students. So it's just everything connected, right? Grand unification theory. It's all there together. And I commend you for the events. You know, those are just two examples, but you all are doing this dozens of times a week in every single academic area. So following up on a question that often comes up as we get into summer, education abroad, we've got a nice range of those, and I appreciate Ann Gucker-Parker and the work that she is doing. The question comes up about proration in summer, and how can we have viable ed abroad programs when the size and scope of those, and really the work leading up to them is very different. Looking at Ann on a per program basis, report, and she'll convey this to those that are leading that. We're going to fund those fully for those faculty leading those programs, and we're going to do that as much as we can, recognizing that they're slightly different. I addressed this in January because it was a question, but I want to reiterate it, that as summer launches, March 1st will be the go live for our schedules for summer and fall. And we want that viability in those programs, but if you've got an area like Ed Abroad or an upper level course that's required that might have smaller enrollment, let's have conversations to make sure that we can offer those and give those to make sure the students are getting what they need. Can't offer classes of just 3 students, right? Because that would put us in the negative. But we're also looking at this holistically and making sure that students are taken care of well. Following up again from our January conversation about the humanities building and some tech as well as some physical needs there, door access as well as installation and technology. Had a great meeting earlier this week to create a punch list. I'll share that that was much larger than I realized it was. And so we're working with facilities and ITS to start knocking those things out and make sure that faculty teaching in humanities have the spaces that they need and the students can really use that space. It looks great, but there's some functional issues that we need to address in there. And we're knocking those out as quickly as possible. Some good news coming in commencement. We've got the largest graduation class. It seems like every year it just keeps going up. And the challenge that poses is we need more ceremonies and the logistics of making sure people can attend. The flip side of that is we do not want to limit and have to ticket. We want people to bring as many folks as they want to celebrate with them. So look for some more information shortly coming out of that, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that we're doing it in a way where undergraduate and graduate can be combined in a disciplinary way. And we'd love to have you at every ceremony, right? Please come to all of them because you as the faculty are presenting those graduating students to the president. But if you do have constraints and you can't come to all of them, then we're going to make that a little more accessible and more approachable for faculty and staff. Also got a question about the Board of Regents policy updates in November. Keep this underneath my pillow, right? This was a huge number of changes, about 50 or so pages, and I appreciate Dylan's invitation to join Faculty Senate Executive Committee last week. Also visited alongside Christy Carmen and Terry Walthour representing legal and HR to help clarify, visited Staff Advisory Council Executive Committee as well. And I think there were some concerns about the updates there, in particular in political interference, institutional freedom of expression. A lot of this work deals with SAC-COC and creating agnostic language that says, you know, an accrediting body rather than specifically SAC-COC. There's also updates to the US and Georgia history and constitution requirements. And I know DCEPS is addressing those in their courses, but particularly around, I think nursing had a question about how does this impact our accreditation, our standards, communication, nursing and education in particular have accreditation standards that are necessary that speak to or maybe potentially intersect with some things going on in language and changes at the federal and BOR level. And I'm happy to talk specific with those groups or if individuals have questions. But as Christy Carmen iterated, we have an EEO statement that the USG has stated and that the UWG has adopted. And those statements should be sufficient to meet the accreditation standards. But as the president indicated, you know, we're here to serve all students. And that language, there's no collision with any of these changes. So I'll quote Gavin, who kind of asked during that meeting, I'm not putting you on the spot, but I am. We can continue to do excellent work in our courses, in particular in your disciplinary areas. And DCEPS criminology is one of those areas. If you feel that there's an issue there, I'm happy for you to talk with your chair, your dean, or myself to make sure. But one of the best things that we can do is look at our curricula holistically. And UPC and GPC are great examples of that. But even in individual areas, if I'm teaching a CS1 course, integrating my recommendations and how I'm teaching that class in review with my colleagues in computing is great to make sure that we're doing best practices and good content holistically. That's most easily done, of course, in the gen ed and lower division areas because we have more sections of that. It also helps with consistency across sections. And you'll see some work that we're doing with the bookstore around, yes, we've got day one access and early adoption, that's great. But if we have issues where textbooks are changing or we've got 10 sections of a course and all of the textbooks are different per course, it imposes some challenges on students that I know as an early career faculty, I wasn't considering. So I appreciate Jeff and your work around having some conversations about what are the holistic elements of that. And so not only is looking at our curricula and in groups, best practice, but it also has some very nuanced impact in student book buyback and accessibility and affordability. Let me be very clear, I'm not suggesting or mandating that every section of every course has to have the same text, but let's at least have a conversation around, if we've got 20 sections, do we need 20 different books? Or would 4, 5, 6, 10 be more reasonable? So I toss that out as something for us to consider and look forward to that conversation for the rest of this semester as we go on. Last thing I'll mention is AI busters. We've done a lot of work in AI, and I think UWG has done great work across the last year and a half on this. But going back to our conversation with the Perry College School of Mathematics, Computing, and Sciences, and also the College of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences Information, there was discussion around what is a research cluster? What does that mean? And this is a great example of that. We'd like to start hosting monthly brown bag conversations around AI. We've got some faculty doing some great things in that space and just sharing ideas around what is this work. Some of you have heard me give my example of I gave myself an hour one Saturday to say, can I give prompts into Copilot and can it generate an intro CS1 course textbook with example code and problems and pros and cons of typical student errors. And within an hour, I had a 100-page passable CS1 book, and it would be useful. Obviously, it's going to take a bit more work. It's kind of that 80-20 principle. But it got me thinking, what is the impact on P&T, for example? We give credit for creative activity, scholarship, and research when you write a textbook. And if prompts can cut that time from a 2-year to I'm not going to suggest 2 hours. It's a lot more involved than that. But that has implications. What does that do with our in-class experience when we can create automated videos and podcasts that say, take this concept and generate a podcast, or take this concept and generate sample video or sample content and present that to our students? It has massive implications to how we're teaching. The core of our expertise and faculty's intersection of knowing cutting edge content and presenting that in an accessible way, uniquely, for each student in the room, is not going away. It's just how we accomplish that. So I'm looking forward to those. I think it's kind of a Ghostbuster. So you're going to call Jeff? You want to talk on this?
Yeah, just real quick. AI Busters kind of follows the early 2000s Mythbusters model.
Mythbusters. Okay. I'm going older.
We're going to put to the test the possibility and limitations of AI in several aspects of teaching and research and student success, things we care about. We actually have our first one scheduled. It's going to be February 25th. So we have mark your calendars, 12 to 1. The provost has graciously approved some food to be part of that. So we'll be doing some feeding of you as well as intellectually challenging you to think about AI in a critical but also possibly supportive way. So that will be February 25th, Tuesday, 12 to 1. And our own provost will be taking up the question of, can you design a textbook to use in your course using AI? So we'll address that as as our first topic. And we have some really, I think, really interesting topics forthcoming. We hope to do this. We'll do it through the spring and hopefully pick it back up in the fall. We've got some really good ideas for it. So please come, encourage other faculty, staff, students to come, and even folks in K-12 education in the community who might have interest in this are welcome to come too. And by the way, if you can't come to a 12 to 1 session, we will have different times throughout the semester so we can accommodate different people's schedules. But we're really excited about this. We're going to challenge and also see what's possible with AI in various areas. So
Thanks, Jeff.
it's going to be that moment.
And I'll give you a card.
It'll be in the University Club of West Commons, formerly Z6. You know that room there?
In the back?
Kind of in the back, part of
Yeah.
Z6 or whatever.
Yeah, I got five books I need to write.
What's that?
I love it.
Yeah, and we encourage you to bring your computers, like we're
Yeah.
planning to do this interactively. So maybe in computer science, a textbook works really well for a given course,
Yeah.
but maybe in anthropology, you try it out, it doesn't quite sing. So it's really not just about AI in general, it's AI specific to disciplines and areas. So it's gonna be interactive as well as informative. So please come along.
We plan to offer it on different days than Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll move around as we go, so we can try to accommodate different schedules. And we plan to have food there each time, at least through the spring, so.
And if you miss the session, just ask AI, how does AI, how is AI useful? I'll give you a ton.
Where's this coming from? That's.
AI will provide, AI will provide. No,
This is kind of Orwellian, right? But I'll give you a teaser, lest you think because my academic background is computing, I'm all sold. I'll also share, I'm one of the strongest Luddites in the room as well. Blood in the Machine, if you haven't read this text, it's fantastic. It talks about the Luddite movement in England. So just because a technology brings change and has promise, doesn't mean it works for all, and doesn't mean it doesn't come with complications. So we recognize that, and that's part of why we're setting this up. It's yes, there's great promise, but what are the impacts and where does it break? Because I guarantee you, it can't replace a lot of the human connectedness and what we do in the classroom. So I hope you look forward to joining. Happy to take questions on these topics or anything else. Standing between you and chocolate tonight as well, I understand, so.
Just to add to the AI, the University System of Georgia's Teaching and Learning Conference, which is coming up in early April, has some dedicated sessions to AI, kind of an AI thread. We have actually some faculty from West Georgia that are going to be down there doing presentations. It's just down in Columbus, Georgia, just a little bit south of us, so an easy drive.
Great.
I encourage folks maybe to consider going there as well.
Yeah.
See what other folks at USG are doing around AI.
Well, thanks. Appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, if you're in this space and you've done some good things, please join and share. If you've not touched this and you think this is a waste of time, then please come and argue that position. We welcome that. Other questions or thoughts? Last comment I'll make then is I appreciate the work that 27 faculty are doing in 37 sections. Just over 1,300 students are participating in the Common Course Components notification pilot. We've had conversations around this, and there was some anxiety. It was this big brother, and are you telling on me to my department chair if I don't turn assignments in? We're flipping that, right? It's supportive and it's encouraging. 3 days before an assignment is due, these students are getting notification. Don't forget it's due. Again, only for those that haven't already turned it in. If you're a hot shot and you turn it in, then you're not going to get that notification. 1 day before an assignment is due, we're letting you know, hey, make sure, don't miss it. And even after 1 day after it was due, we're not giving up. We're telling students, go talk with your faculty. All is not lost. Here are resources. If something came up and prevented you from being able to be engaged, we don't want just to write that off. So supportive, encouraging, and speaking of teaching and learning conferences, if you're participating in that, thank you. We're looking for all kinds of scholarship of teaching and learning research papers. So if you're not already part of that pilot and you want to get engaged, please let me know and we'll get you connected to that. It's exciting change, but it's supportive and it's a new way of helping reduce the number of assignments that are missed, right? One clean indication is how many zeros do you have in that grade book? Let's drive that down to zero. Hold on. All right. Thank you all very much. Hope you have a wonderful Valentine's for the rest of the day.
All right, thank you all. So first order of business on the agenda is we actually have an action item coming out of the executive committee. So we have representative of the committee, Gavin Lee, to come on up. Thank you.
This is a request to revise UWG shared governance procedures. I'm not reading this for modifications to academic programs. The rationale being the program is requesting that program name changes, SIP code changes, and changes to program descriptions be added to the list of program changes that do not require Senate review or approval and can be processed by the Office of the Provost after the college or school level review. So it still goes through, and we got it still goes through. If you look at the addendum, still goes through, department chair, college dean, provost, all those things. It just misses out the Senate. When it comes to anything technical about that, because I have no idea what I've just read. Thankfully, David Newton's in the room. Any problems? It's him. Wait before a vote. Any questions, in all seriousness, so, for, David, you-
I'll say this request came from a couple of our academic colleges and schools that are having to process either a zip code change or a program name change. And so this is in response to them and just trying to kind of expedite that process. Typically, the Senate reviews through GPC and UPC curriculum items. These are not curricular changes. These are just really more technical or administrative changes.
thank you, David. And do we have any other questions for David? I'm sorry, you'll be here, David, it's definitely sorry. All right, well, so no other questions. Can I call for a vote, please? All those in favour, raise your hand or say aye. Aye. All those in opposition and abstentions. Okay, so what happens next, Laura? When it's passed, right? It's passed, right? Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, one more thing. Don't forget, Scholars Day deadline, February 28th. Brilliant. Most of you know about it, but those that are new, make sure you get students to apply stuff at Scholars Day, because that's good fun.
Thank you, Gavin. So just a few things before we move on as far as just updates and comments, I guess. I want to point out that some of the things we heard during our updates are consequences of discussions that we have had in this room. And I want to highlight that as an encouragement for you all to continue to drive the conversations in these rooms. I think by far one of the most valuable experiences, valuable things that we get from Senate as it exists today are the discussions that we are able to have face to face with our leaders, that are able to, that allows us to bridge some divides that are very real in our day-to-day business. Whether it's getting a walkthrough of humanities to deal with some issues, whether it is, driving out some student surveys, and we've had discussions that prompted real discussions with the vice provost, and we're going to bring in the teaching committee. We're going to see if we can get some movement on those, but that all stems from our leaders being here and talking with us, and importantly, and what I hope we continue to do more of, is us talking with them in these moments. That's really valuable. So to facilitate that, I'll always encourage you to take advantage of that. But there is nothing more impactful than in this space, in that moment, you asking a question or you commenting on something or bringing an idea. I also recognize that sometimes that's just not going to work for everybody. So I'll reiterate my commitment ahead of time. If you send me something that you want to be kept confidential, but you want to make certain is passed on, they will attest that no matter what it is, I will pass it on. So please do that. But I do want to reiterate, I think nothing is more impactful than when at all possible, if you bring it into this space and put your name behind it and your face behind it, that's as impactful as it gets. All right. Preaching is over for the moment. Just updates on ongoing things. So we are, as a group, especially at the Senate leadership level, working on that committee revision. So February 28th is the Friday before our next executive meeting. So we're hoping to be able to have all of the revisions that are being suggested in your committee meetings and so forth collected by the 28th, so that we will have some time to put those all together in an updated draft that the executive committee can discuss and hopefully act on at that meeting. So continue to have those conversations with your colleagues. Hopefully you've seen them in your committee chair. If you need a copy of, if for some reason you don't have it and you need a copy, please go ahead and get in touch with me. I'm happy to send you a copy of the proposal. Let's keep having those conversations, keep getting the feedback, so we can hopefully have a more efficient structure going into next year. Last month, we had a really good conversation in here about how can we drive some more campus engagement. We got a lot of really good ideas in the minutes, and I know our leaders have seen those minutes, but it was clear to me at the end of that meeting that there were a lot more good ideas out there, so we circulated that form. So what I've been working on, and what I'm not quite done with yet, but what I'm still working on, is I'm trying to merge the stuff that made it into the minutes, the stuff that made it into the form. I'm putting it together in some sensible way that I can convey to our leadership without just sending them like a massive report that's going to not be particularly helpful, because there are a lot of themes. There are a lot of distinct suggestions, but there are overlapping themes. So I'm trying to do something useful with that I can pass on. there's really two categories in there, and it's not at all 50-50. It's more like, I'd say a 3/4 and 1/4. Say about 3/4 of the suggestions were things that frankly, we're gonna have to lean heavily on our leadership to deal with, and then maybe have some role in that. But there's a clear quarter that I would say that we as faculty can probably should do something about. We've had those conversations. We started having those conversations in exec last week. So one of those things just that we can immediately try and move on is several of us recognizing that conversation that our office hours policy that's in the handbook looks like it's from a different century. So we're gonna try and, the rules committee, exec are gonna dive into that and try and update that, modernize some of that language in there, get into more of a less office hours and more like student engagement time where we're gonna work on. We're gonna try and update that. But again, consequence from these conversations, and I'll bring that to you once we get it developed. All right, always get questions on presidential search. I don't really have anything at this time. The committee's gathering candidates. Hopefully you've seen the profile at this point. I've been advised that it's probably going to be a little while before we have next steps on that point. We're taking applications. So with that, that's all I have. So I want to move to opportunity for committee chairs to bring anything. Amy, you have something?
This is actually a report from the UWG work group. David Newton has been kindly spearheading that operation. And they've made a lot of progress, extensive discussions with ITS, UWG Online, and IFE. After all this discussion, Course Den will be used for promotion and tenure dossiers. Course Den Sandbox has been created for everyone to access. Templates for professional review categories, peer review, associate professor, full professor, post-tenure review, senior lecturer are all being developed to mirror the current Google Slide structure. And they'll be loaded in to those Course Den templates. Administrative staff will assist with the creation so that we're all in line. And Google Slides will remain available for the current P&T process, but the goal is to have templates and instructions ready for faculty to begin to use Course Den for the fall semester cycle. So this is all I think it is. Yes.
Do you know any way to pull your Google site over for people who've already built that entire thing?
It's a good question. We're looking to see if that's possible. I don't think in my conversation with the IT so far, there doesn't seem to be an easy way to do that. But certainly the documents can be pulled from Google Sites. And then the nice thing about if we use the Course Den form, the modules be that you can just drop documents into those modules for like teaching, service, and and professional development. So that's kind of really trying to, of course, the idea is to simplify this, make it easier to kind of produce these, but also to have a template format so faculty kind of know where to place things.
So with that, you're going ready for first, that means
You'll have an option this coming year, I think, because we're gonna have this up and running, and I think it'll be much easier. But we realize that some people may already be in Google Sites working to develop theirs. So this year we'll probably have, we're gonna have some options for both, I think, because we just had folks call it. So I'm hoping that maybe next year we'll be completely out of Google Sites and everybody will be.
Thank you. Anything else, or any other committee chairs have anything they can bring up? All right, so committee action items, we will move on to the UPC. Okay.
UPC submitted 10 action items for vote today, and we've received no questions so far, but I'll take any now if anyone. All right, so then we'll vote then on approving these 10 items from UPC. All in favor? Any opposed? Or any abstaining? Thanks.
GPC.
UPC has 3 action items submitted for approval. There were no questions received in advance. Are there any questions? There are no questions. I'll call it to a vote. All in favor of the 3 items submitted for approval, raise your hand. Any opposed?
Thank you. All right. No old business, so we have, for new business, we have a presentation and maybe some discussion about our emergency management on campus. So I'd like to call up Dale, come on down.
So thank you for having me. And I brought handouts for later. My name is Zayla Wellen, and I recently took over the Office of Emergency Management. They gave me a lovely title called the Manager of the Office of Emergency Management, which is greatly redundant, but it was better than, hey, you handle this. So one of the things that as I sat in my new office, mounting with paperwork and wondered if you could actually physically drown in paperwork, was how I was going to handle everything that needed to be done. And a friend of mine, the sergeant over training for the police department, came in and he was like, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So I went, okay, I'm going to do that. So I divided everything up into 3 sections for me. And those are the projects that I kind of tasked myself with this year. And as I began to make contact with people across the campus, I got the same response over and over again. The first one was, I didn't know you existed. I was like, well, okay. And the second one was, what is it that you do? Which kind of goes with not knowing that I'm here. And the third one is, what do you do for me? So I went, okay, this is great. So those 3 avenues that I wanted to talk about really quickly today, and I know you're busy, so I'm not going to take a whole bunch of your time. The first one was Live Safe, which is an app. And I know the president talked about the many, many apps that we have available on campus. This app is designed to help you guys. So I'm going to show you some stuff about that app, and then I have some things to give you about it. And then I'm going to quickly discuss the building coordinators program. Some of you may be involved in that and have already had me reach out to you. And then some things that we're doing with campus preparedness, which is where you see the police department engage in those training exercises. And we're going to start pulling in departments into our training exercises so that you can see what we're doing and see how we're going to do things on campus. So if that makes any sense. So the first one is Live Safe app. And when I did my statistics on who's utilizing the app and what they're doing with it, the segment of people that were using it the least were staff and faculty. And that confused me. So I reached out and I was like, why aren't you guys utilizing this? Why aren't you on the app? Why aren't you doing things with the app? And a lot of people said, we didn't know it existed. Nobody told us about it. I don't know what it is. I don't want another app on my phone. So there's the QR code. It's really easy. Scan it now. It'll come down onto your phone. The app is set up, and I've given little pictures of what a phone would look like on the side there. This is what it looks like on your phone. Each colored tile does a different thing. So the first one is blue and it says contact emergency services. The reason I encourage faculty to download this app and use this tile is that you guys are in a unique position of being often, and I realize our students are adults, but sometimes they're not adults. You're in the unique position of often being in a room full of people and you're the only adult. So they're looking at you for help or assistance as the person in charge, right? This app, that first tile, that contact emergency services tile, will let you contact the university police department or 911. If you hit the tile on your phone, first thing that comes up is a question. Do you want to dial 911?
Do you want to call over the phone to UPD? Or do you want to text UPD where you can have a conversation with emergency services on this campus without anybody else knowing in the room that you're having that conversation? So you see where this begins to work for you. So if you're in a situation where there might be some difficulty in your classroom, and what you don't want to do is pick up your phone and go, hey, police, this guy is not doing what I need him to do, and he might be a safety issue. You can still speak to him and text us, and he's never going to know that you're doing that. The second button, and it's labeled panic alarm, comes through a Georgia law called Alyssa's Law. If you haven't heard of Alyssa's Law, and I'm going to paraphrase here, the law says that universities within Georgia have to have a panic button where anybody on campus or associated with campus can hit the button and get a direct line to university police department without having to say or type anything. So if you open your app and you tap on the panic alarm, it's going to ask you one question. Are you sure? If you're real sure, just tap it twice, right? And then we're going to go into Mrs. Doubtfire mode, right? Help is on the way. We're going to come without ever contacting you. So all you have to do is open your phone, double tap it, put your phone back down. We're on the way. The only way this works, however, is if when you download that app, you let us have your location services. So the first question when you download the app is going to say, can LiveSafe have your location services? Now you can choose all the time, or you can choose just when I'm using the app. But if you don't tell us your location services, we can't get help to you. The one detractor from this is there are no services like LiveSafe or any other apps out there that give vertical location. So what that means is if you're in the new humanities building and you double tap the panic button, it will tell me that you're in the northeast corner, but it will not tell me if you're on the second or third floor. However, we have a lot of police officers and they're all super fit and they like to run up and down stairs, and they will find you. So we're going to let them do that. We can text you through that panic button, but we don't have to, right? So that is the easiest way for you if you find yourself in a situation to get a hold of emergency services without having to take that time to do those things. And I've color-coded the little synopsis here for the colors of the buttons. The third one is Safe Walk, which is used a lot by our students. It allows you, the user, to tell a friend through that you tap that button and you can say, hey, here I am. And I want Dr. McLean to passively watch my footprints on a map until I get to my location. If my footprints stop for more than 3 minutes, it's going to text him and then he can send that to UPD with the push of a button going, hey, my friend was walking from the library to Arborview and it's 3 in the morning and she just stopped. So then we know where to go look for you without that person having to say anything. You don't have to be on campus to use Safe Walk. You can be anywhere and use that, right? So you can, and a lot of students have their siblings or best friends or people back home or their mother or father utilize that. Hey, mom, I'm walking home. Just watch me walk home. Or I live off campus. Watch me drive off campus because it's super late. So you can, your students can use this. You can use this. The fourth tile down, which you can't see on my little thing, but it's yellow, and it is the UWG map. And it just shows you the map. And on the map, it shows you the bus stops, the building names, which buildings have AEDs. It doesn't show you the location room of the AED, but it will tell you which buildings have an AED. This is something that I push during orientations because new students are often confused because we have a great green campus and it's very hard to manage for the first couple of weeks. So they can get around and use this map on their phones as they go from one place to another. So you can always say, hey, we're meeting in a different location. Please check your Live Safe for the map, and it's on there. The fourth button down is a direct link to UWG's Counseling Center, and it's their webpage. And it has the You Will number on it, so they can call that directly. The tile doesn't take you directly to that number. It just gives you the number. This is how that they preferred to have it set up. And the last one there is a resources tab. And I'd like to offer you guys the ability to put anything that you want on that resource tab if you have a large group of people that are asking the same questions to you. Where do I find this? How do I get that? I can list things on there. Right now I have, how do you get a police report? How do I contact these or those people? So any group can ask, and we can create a direct link and open up a page, and we can put your information on there. It's something that I haven't gotten a lot of feedback from, but I think it's because nobody's telling you that this has been there for your use. So if you have, like I said, a need, if you'll just hit me up, I'll create something with you and we'll get what you need on that app. So we went over the panic button. It's Alyssa's law. All schools have to be equipped with this. One of the things, and if you've been around here a while, we used to have blue poles, right? And on some of the buildings, we had little yellow boxes that did the same thing. So those have all been removed and replaced with a signage project. And I'll show you a picture of the signage in a minute. So facilities development and sustainability took those old yellow emergency call buttons off the buildings and the blue poles, because while each university in our system is designed different, laid out different, and needs different things, some universities are still using those blue phones because they work for them. What we found out is during a 10-year study, we didn't have any actual emergency usage of it. So people weren't using it, though, and we're paying for quite a few. I think we had 50 across the campus. And those are what it's inside those blue poles is an actual cell phone. So it just dials us via cell phone. We're paying for all those cell phone lines that nobody's using. We did have people hit the button just to call and then run away a lot, but we didn't have emergencies. And we also looked at the fact that if you were having an emergency, say, the generalized bad guy is after you, the worst thing we can tell you is stay put. I know it's going to happen, but we'll be on our way. So what we don't want you to do is stay put in an emergency if somebody is approaching you, right? We want you to get to safety. The Live Safe app allows us to track you as you move, so we know where you're going, right? So this helps. And the other thing is advertisement, and this is what I have brought you, and they are free for handout, and you may see some of these in buildings already. If you're in the humanities building, you've probably been inundated by these because I went around like a stalker and put them everywhere. But I do encourage you to, and I'll put them up somewhere they can get them, put them places. It's the app for anybody who doesn't have it. You can scan it. I'm really, really bad about going into everybody's building's bathrooms, because in a bathroom you sit down, so it's on the back of the bathroom doors. I know that everybody laughs when I say that, but everybody here sits down in the bathroom and they all take their phone with them. So that's a lot of what you're going to see on the back of the bathroom doors. And the last thing that we're doing with Live Safe is trying to get that cohesive intradepartmental use. And what I mean by that is And I'm going to give you an example with HRL. We are designing a tab for HRL to use. This is just an example of the signage that we replaced. So those are what you see instead of the yellow phones. And that's that poster that I'm going to hand out. So everywhere that there was a yellow emergency button on the side of a building now has that particular thing that says University Police, our phone number, and then it'll say location 1 or 2 or 12 or 14, and we know where that is. It's in our CAD system. A CAD system is how we dispatch. So all we have to do is put in location 1 and it pops up exactly where that is so the officers can get to you, and then it goes direct to their cars and they can read it in their cars. And then it gives people the app there so they could scan it right there and then move on if they needed to. So, and this is what I was talking about with intradepartmental uses. So I'm in the process now of creating an additional tile for HRL. And on that tile, and I'll explain what you're looking at on that screen in just a second. On that tile, their students, yes, ma'am.
What's HRL? Sorry.
Housing and Residence Life.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
Don't worry, no, thank you very much.
So their students will be able to communicate directly to their people and it won't come to us. So we have the option of designing those tiles to go to certain departments as well, right? So this is a picture of what dispatchers see when you utilize LiveSafe. So we see the little blue markers on there indicate where the calls are, and the side is the actual call, and we would just click on those side calls and it would give us the synopsis or a text message, and we talk to you straight through our computers. So that's how that works inside the dispatch center. So that's what they're seeing, and that's how they're communicating with you. I also want to add that when you utilize the text to UPD or the panic button, you can send us videos, you can send us pictures, you can send us little clips, and it comes straight into here. Right? So you're seeing a video that somebody has sent us. It works just the same. So if you wanted to send a picture of somebody and that's all you could get out, we know who we're looking for. Right. And I think maybe just people didn't know it was out there. And we are, again, 24/7, 365. So that is live answer 24/7, 365. And before I go on to the building coordinators program, what I didn't list in here is another app that I want you to consider. It's not something that university is utilizing wholly, but it's called What 3 Words. Has anybody ever heard of What 3 Words? It is the most interesting app to me. It was designed and implemented by the London Metropolitan Police Department. And they took the whole world and gridded it into 9 square feet grids. And each one of those grids is given 3 specific random words. So where I'm standing now would be, and I'm just going to give you the example because I don't know, microphone table flyer. And this area is always going to be microphone table flyer. So if I download What 3 Words, and it's what, the number 3, and then words, and I don't know where I'm at, I can give those 3 words to any 911 center or UPD, and we'll know where you're at. So it opens up, it says that automatically. What this is really good for is if you are jogging on a trail out in the woods or in an environment that you don't know really well, or say you're out with your significant other or children or family, and say you're at a large football stadium and your child went to go to the bathroom and can't find his way back to you, you can text him and say, give me your What 3 Words. and you can track him through there. So you can share your locations on what 3 words, and one person can stay stationary and the other person can, and it will walk you on a map to that place. You can say, get me to those 3 words, and it will take a map and take you there. The way that the London Metropolitan Police designed it was for emergency services, because they had people who didn't know where they were. And they're, you know, if you're on the Silver Comet Trail or the Greenbelt, you get bit by a snake and you don't know, well, I'm somewhere between Maple and, right? We know which section you're at if you give us those 3 words. So it's another app that I really like. It's not something the university is utilizing, but we utilize it in the dispatch center because it's an additional way of finding people, right? So it works really well. Say you want to go to, you know, Coachella this year with a bunch of friends and it's huge and you want to find each other, you can get on there with a whole group of friends. You can invite as many people as you want to your little segment and you can all see each other on that map. So it's something you should consider. So my second bite of the elephant that I was talking about was the building coordinators program. It hasn't been updated since 2020. COVID took a left turn for emergency management. My predecessor was starting this project and then we had to deviate. So I am reestablishing it. Those of you who are involved in it have probably already got lots of stuff from me ad nauseum and wish you hadn't volunteered for it, and I apologize, but here we go. It is part of our preparedness planning, and the idea is that each building has one person as the coordinator or manager of the building. That person is the point of contact for me. And we will create together an emergency plan for your building. So if there's an emergency on campus, whether that be a weather emergency, fire, active shooter, the plan has what your building should do. And then we create a continuity of operations plan, which is how we make sure that the people in your building have everything they need to keep working. So we'll talk about and plan for what you need to do your job elsewhere. If we're moving you across campus, if we're moving you to a remote location, how your team makes sure that everybody is out of your building is all in those plans. So if you don't know your building manager, you have one. Find out who it is and get with them, because I've been sending them. Everybody now has been given a building emergency plan, every building on campus that is fully occupied. And I say fully occupied because I didn't do one for Kennedy Chapel, because although we utilize it, we don't have people in it all the time. So every building on campus that is fully utilized has an emergency plan. In those emergency plans, there'll be things like the evacuation site, your check-in system, like are you doing it through Teams or you just have a phone tree? How is it best for your department to make sure that everybody's out, right? Because what happens is if we do an evacuation, say for fire or a structural issue, then I have to send the fire department in to go make sure that everybody's out. But if I can get hold of my building manager and they say, I've gone through my prep and everybody's checked in, there's nobody left in the building, all I'm looking for then is random students. Or if it's after hours, I know that the building should be clear. This also includes ADA things. So I need to know through the plan with your building manager where people with disabilities will be for us to go get. And we have ADA sites in every building. Every building plan will include where to go if you're in lockdown, where is the safe zones for storms within your building, where are your shelter zones, right? So it's there. I just don't think that you guys have been given that information. So you can get with me and I can give you your building manager, or you can reach out to your department head and they can tell you who your building managers are. Any questions about that? I know that's kind of a lot to like, oof, she is working. And the last segment that I'm working on this year is basic emergency management at UWG. So this is what my office does. And so emergency management, if you've ever seen this, some of you teach within this, so you've probably seen it before. We start with mitigation, and that is where we figure out where we're vulnerable and what we can do to mitigate that vulnerability. So we do vulnerability assessments. What does your building need? What does this campus need? How can we help the public? How can we provide education? Right? And then we move on to preparedness. And there's a lot of acronyms there because I do a lot of stuff with the federal government, and the federal government loves acronyms. So every year we do the KEMP, and that's the, some people call it the Campus Emergency Management Plan. It's huge, and it has to be done every year and turned into USG. There are IAPs and EAPs, and that's incident action plans and event action plans. The difference between an incident and an event is events are things that we know about. Football games are events. We know that there's there. We know that we have to have an action plan if something happens. Incidents are things that happen instantaneously. Those are things that we didn't initially plan for, but we have a plan for what we didn't plan for. So we have all those emergency plans. I'm also doing SIFT, and that is specific incident focused training. And this is where I can come to your department or provide you with specific training on whatever you think you need. So if you have people who have never operated a fire extinguisher and you would like to operate a fire extinguisher on campus, I will bring the fire department and we will play with fire extinguishers. And we will talk about how it's done and how it's safe. We can do it with 5 people or we can do it with 50 people. Right? It's the training will be there. It's just people aren't asking for it. So I am working on getting those kind of trainings out. We have currently craze training. We have alert training. And those are things that the police department puts on for active shooter, what you do as a faculty member during class if something like that happens. All these classes are free. All you have to do is ask for them. They're here, and we have professional teachers who teach this all the time, and they will come to you. And then lastly, we do tabletop exercises. We are in the process of developing a class right now. And I don't know which building it's going to be in yet because we haven't gotten to that. Many of you know that we have initiated a new security system on campus called, well, I won't give it a name because I might give it the wrong name, where we can lock down every door on campus, every exterior electronic door all at once from the dispatch center. So if we need to have the campus in lockdown, we can do it with the single push of a button, which means that you can go outside of a building, but you cannot get back in. Now, the police have ways of overriding, so they can come into your building and help you, but your building becomes secure. So that's something we can do now. And we are working on a live scale exercise this year where we will involve some of you in showing you how that works and what you would do in it. So if you're interested in being involved in that exercise, let us know, and we will come running through your building too. So as we go through all that preparedness, we hit the response phase of emergency management, and the response phase is when an incident actually happens. This is where emergency responders come in. We start the incident management, and NIMS stands for, and I realize I've used all these acronyms now that you told me this, which is the National Incident Management System. And it's how all fire departments and police departments operate a management system so that they are all interoperable. So we can call in other people and they know how they fit into the puzzle, right? So we operate the same way that the Carrollton Fire Department operates. If we had to have mutual aid from Douglas County, they're coming in and they're operating under the same system, and that's NIMS. So we all train under the same system so that we're all able to do that. We all understand the frequency and who's checking in where and what your jobs are. So it doesn't look like chaos. I mean, it might look like chaos, but it's not. The goal during a response phase is always to protect life and property. So when we talked about the continuity of operations, we're not there yet. During an incident, all we're worried about is making sure you're okay. And making an initial assessment as to what is going on. Once that is solved, then we walk into the recovery phase, and this is where the campus as a whole looks at the economic recovery, housing, you or students. We look at the infrastructure reconstruction as to what is needed for you to continue, and that's where that COOP comes into play. So it sounds like a lot, and I'm sorry if I inundated you. And I talk really fast, so I'm sorry. So there is me and that app again that I would really love for y'all to download. Again, it offers so much. Download it, explore it, it's free. Encourage your students to use it. And I'm going to leave these with you, and you can just hand them out and put them everywhere. Any questions for me? Anything that I can answer? Like I know I rushed through it and gave you tons and tons and tons of information. I think. Yes.
Yes. So the students seem to be using it, but I don't know if you're able to elaborate at all and just say how you're seeing it in zones on campus, or I don't know. I'm just curious.
Our biggest use in the Live Safe app is the Safe Walk. Like more students use it for anything else. And the second one is the text to UPD. Because it has an anonymous option, you can see something, say something. Students tell us things about what they see all the time, or we get pictures that we see, and they get to remain anonymous. So those are our two biggest usage, and they're both students. Right, so students use it for themselves in that sense, and students use it to contact us to tell us things that they're seeing or experiencing. And the most popular point of that is the anonymity, honestly. So we chose to keep that anonymity for them. Anything else? Yes.
So is that button the button that locks people down?
No, it is a total different system. So there are two ways within the dispatch center we do that. It literally is a comically like Looney Tunes Acme button, and it says it's big and it's red and it sits on the wall in a big closure. And y'all are welcome to come by and tour the police department at any point. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. It looks very, very similar to this. Right, it's a little bit bigger than that actually, so that we can't miss it, right? And you flip that up, and you have to turn to lock it into place and then activate it, right? We can also activate it from our dispatch screens. So the dispatchers sit with 8 screens around them, and they monitor 20 different softwares and systems simultaneously. Many of them are tone activated, so each one will go off with a different tone, so we know where to look, right? So Live Safe gives us a particular tone, so it flashes up onto the screen so that we could put something over it and then back out. But we can do the shutdown without ever getting up. So, and we're the ones that reset that as well. So we do have policies in place. It's not something that's going to be arbitrarily done. Hopefully we never, ever have to use it, right? That's the goal, that we are so prepared that we never have to use things like that. Anything else? Must be questions. We are the mysterious, right? Nothing? Well, all right, doctor.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I have those papers up here if anybody wants them. That's the conclusion of our agenda for today. So as far as I'm concerned, it's early Valentine's. Or go enjoy. Thank you all for everything as always.
He's right there. Yeah, yeah.